Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address, episode 125, titled Breaking the Ice. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Pucks and Pitchforks blog editor-in-chief Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, Twitter Live, YouTube Live, and Twitch on the Primetime Radio Network. Oh, do we have a good podcast for you tonight? Our special guest is Alexis Downie, the host of Icebreakers at Stadium. Nick, welcome to the podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk to Alexis tonight. I've been watching her videos for a couple months, just kind of seeing like I like finding people and finding these underground hockey writers that people don't know a ton about and bringing them on and kind of seeing what they can do in this setting, in this, putting them on the opposite side of the interview setting. Some people react so well to it and they become like they gain their voice, or they already found their voice, and you kind of get surprised by it. But Alexis is somebody, like I said, she put out a couple videos on the Devils, especially with the Hamilton signing and all that. And I was like, I'm intrigued. So I followed along for a couple weeks. I was like, you know what? Let's see what she can do. Let's put her on the podcast. Sam, I love finding new talent. So I'm excited to talk to Alexis and see what she's got to say about our Devils.
Yeah, I love new talent, fresh faces, fresh voices, different opinions, not the same old status quo. That's what we do here on the State of the Fan Address and Let's Go Devils podcast. We change it up a bit. We're breaking the ice. Sometimes we're doing something new. Sometimes we're doing something monotonous and the same. But it brings interesting conversation. And I will tell you that social media, both Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live, and Twitch, the responses have been great, and we appreciate that.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that it seems like we're getting a lot of new people coming in and checking out us as talent. So we're new talent to a lot of people too. I know me and you talk about it all the time. The site's doing well. The podcast is doing very well. So it's really nice to see that, people know where to go when things are happening. Things weren't happening for a while, so you and me were like, "What's going on? We can't get people to listen, can't get people to read." And now that things are going on, they know where to go to. So I appreciate that. I do want to pivot for just 2 seconds, Sam. I know you've talked about this a lot, and I know I've written about this a lot. But I gotta at least quickly send a shout out to the family of Jimmy Hayes. People dying young today is really terrible because everybody spins it. And I can't even think of what the Hayes family is going through, because I just look at some of the comment sections of some of these things and people sharing horrible things about what's going on in the world today. Why? Like, stop. Don't do that. Jimmy Hayes was such a great guy from every single person that you talk to, and that's how we should remember him, no matter what. They don't even know the cause of death, so I don't even know why the people are getting into this stupid stuff. I don't even know why I got into it, to be honest. I should talk about how awesome Jimmy Hayes was. Watching the videos of him that year they put him in the owner's box, and he's like, well, I'm going to go do some stuff. It's like, well, here's a camera. Here's a microphone. Go do some stuff. And he's like, sure. I remember his Super Bowl predictions thing was always really funny because he's a big Patriots fan, Boston College guy, rooting for Tom Terrific at the time. Unfortunately, I lost the Eagles, so that wasn't great for him. But, he was walking around. He was talking to Nico and Jesper Bratt, and he's like, do you even know who's in the Super Bowl? Talking to all the foreign guys. It was funny looking at their face and always seeing just like, I saw a video from one fan who said my son was given access to like cheer them on in the tunnel, and Jimmy Hayes was the only guy to come and talk to him and say words to him right before a game. It's like those super small things of why Jimmy Hayes was not a superstar player, but he always found himself a job because people loved having him on the team and people loved having him around. So, it's sobering, Sam, when people pass away who are younger than you. And Jimmy Hayes is younger than me, which was surprising. I was like, when it first happened, I was in the airport and I was talking to my friends. My friends were flying back to Newark, and I was like, yeah, he's not even 40 yet. Because, like, you think, like, he's retired, but he wasn't that young, or he wasn't that old, I mean. So he's probably mid-30s, late 30s. So it's like, that's still really sad. But when you find out he's 31, you're like, and he's a 2-year-old and an infant,
yeah.
Basically. It is heartbreaking. It is devastating. I'm devastated for that family. I'm devastated for the Fitzgerald family. He's related to Tom Fitzgerald, the Devils GM. He's related to, that family has ties everywhere. The Chucks are related to that family, the Fitzgeralds, and then Kevin Hayes playing for the Flyers. And, so I hope they do something for him. I hope they
do too.
He was only here for 1 year, but the impact that he had on this team and that 2017-18 team, that 2017-18 team needed a perfect balance to make the playoffs, to break that streak. And even though Jimmy Hayes only played 30, I think he played 31 games that year. Even though he only played 31 games, 33, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Even though he only played 33 games that year, his presence in the locker room, keeping them up when things got down, because there was a couple losing streaks in there. There was that team was very streaky, if you remember. Him making just saying the right thing at the right time, and getting the guys excited again, getting the guys happy again, getting the guys smiling again. The Devils have probably missed that because I don't know who on the team has been like that. And he actually ended up. He didn't play another NHL season, I know, but did he immediately retire? I'm drawing a blank.
No, I think he made one team's roster, but not playing in the NHL. I think his last NHL game was with the Devils, I believe.
It was with the Devils. I know that for a fact. I just couldn't remember if he did an NHL season or if he did like a owner's box season or a PTO. But either way, Jimmy Hayes was just a good dude. And there's just a lot of news of not so good dudes in the NHL right now. So when you get this news about a good dude, about a genuinely good dude, about a guy who had every privilege in the world, one of the greatest hockey families there is, was gonna get those privileges, but didn't use it to his advantage, was always just a super nice guy and just treated everybody with respect, went out of his way for people who needed him to. I mean, it's, they say only the good die young, and it's times like these where you look at it and you're like, that just sucked.
Yeah, I mean, for me, my favorite number is number 10. That you see my jersey back there. It's number 10. I always follow number 10's players that would wear it, like Oleg Tverdovsky, Rod Pelly, number 10, Jimmy Hayes that one year, because I always loved that number. Whoever wore that number on the Devils, like, I followed religiously in some respects. You know, and this is something I want to bring up to you. You know, the things that we've heard about Jimmy Hayes, it tells you how important it is for a hockey team to have those type of players, to have good character players, somebody that's Mr. Positive. Pete Albies, somebody quoted him saying he was the guy that had you laughing before he even got to the punchline. And I said that on the Woo Report, and that still resonates to me. That kind of positivity, somebody to lighten up the mood. You know, in hockey, there's so many things that are up and down, but we forget about the players sometimes because we're all focused on the stats, the fantasy hockey. If it's not the goals or assists, it's the penalty minutes or the plus minus. I know you don't like plus minus. I'm not sure about that stat, but you know what? And I said this before, and I'll say it again. All these players are human beings. Some players don't even show up on the stat sheet, but they make everybody around them better where they do show up on the stat sheet. And that's something I think that sometimes gets lost in translation, what these players do. They battle hard. And, someone like Jimmy Hayes, again, I don't know him, seems like he was Mr. Positive, great attitude, and he was so magnetic that it drew people to him or to his podcast. I'm so interested in learning more about him that I may start listening to his old podcasts just to get a feel, even more. So it doesn't surprise me that, good people come out and they say really nice things. It's just all over the internet. And it's great that the hockey community as a whole, came together.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are very few things today that get everybody on the same page. And it stinks when it's death. It's terrible. But just hearing all the stories and kind of obsessing a little bit over the content, which I've been doing, just kind of looking at the Instagram pages and seeing what everybody has to say about Jimmy Hayes, just because he was somebody who just fit so well, and like you said, he was only here for a year. He only played 33 games, but he made such an impact on the fan base. So when it happened, I was like, when I first heard it, it was that tweet from the guy in Boston, and I was just like, that Jimmy Hayes, the one that was on the Devils a couple of years ago. I was like, all right, well, that's So I it was just like, it hit me weird because I was like trying to like process. I was like, well, before I let me like make sure it's the same guy, and then when I realized it was the same guy, I was like, you because these are athletes. These aren't people we know, but we do. We're fans of these guys. We watch these guys. We feel like we know them and especially a guy like that who shows his personality in these videos and spends time with fans, and everybody who's around the team has a story about him. You feel like you know the guy. So it was I do want to pivot. I don't want I am sad about it. It's thrown me off all week with my writing and just planning the podcast and everything, but we do have a good guest coming up, and I want to talk Devils hockey because it's still an exciting time. It's quiet time. It is quiet in the NHL. There's still a lot going on just overall. There's still rumors about Jack Eichel. There's the billboard that's up in New York right now, and there's the and I'm still trying to figure out the Vladimir Tarasenko thing. I wrote about that. That's going to go up tomorrow morning. I don't really know what's going on there, but all the GMs I think are taking a break right now, I think everybody's coming back in September, trying to be a little bit more refreshed after a long 2 years, 2.5 years, if you count all the way to 2019, 2020. So I think everybody's just kind of taking a step back. And you usually don't see the GMs make a lot of moves late August anyway. This is the downtime. This is the time where we just kind of speculate, but it's fun to speculate. And there's a piece on the site right now that's exploding that David Holliday wrote. He's a listener to this podcast and now a writer for Pucks and Pitchforks, and talking about Quinn Hughes and Quinn Hughes is what it would take to bring him to the Devils, and spoiler alert, it would take quite a lot, but sometimes it takes a lot to get a lot. So that's blowing up on the site right now. Check that out after the podcast. But Sam's back.
I'm back. Our next guest, she is the host of Icebreakers at Stadium. Her name is Alexis Downie. You can find her on Twitter at Alexis Downie _. Alexis, you're on with Sam and Nick. How are you tonight?
Hey guys, I'm doing well. Excited to be talking about hockey in August.
Yeah, there's actually a weird amount of hockey to talk about right now, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. It's probably because it's been a shortened off season, but I'm certainly enjoying it.
Yeah. So, first of all, Alexis, I want to give you just a second. Usually I do this at the end, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of tell people, what do you do? What is your role in hockey? How do you promote and how do you cover the game?
Yeah, so I host a show called Icebreakers on Stadium, like you mentioned. It's a weekly show that comes out on Stadium's social and digital, so their website. And I talk about everything that's happening on the ice and, what players and teams are doing off of the ice. And I know that this season and actually the past year in general has been a little bit less on that side because, because of COVID and everything. But everything on the ice that's happening, from highlights and things going on around the league, I cover it all on my show. And like I mentioned, you can find it on Stadium. And I actually had the opportunity to head down to the Stanley Cup final this year. So that was super exciting to be covering it on site. And just love hockey and love being around it, love talking about it. And it's definitely my passion.
So, yeah, I actually live in Tampa, so it was just crazy to see fans finally coming back and the excitement around that. So that was a ton of fun. But we are on a Devils podcast. I want to talk a little Devils hockey. The Devils, we won the offseason again. Hey, yeah, go us. We signed Dougie Hamilton, signed Thomas Tatar. We traded for Ryan Graves, drafted Luke Hughes. But Alexis, we've been here before. In fact, 2 years ago, we won the offseason then, and we kind of sucked. So I'm trying to figure out, I wanted a national person, somebody who looks at the game of hockey in general, to kind of tell me, what are your thoughts? What did you think the Devils did, or what did you think of what the Devils did? And do you think that they have a chance to compete in the Metropolitan Division?
Well, as we all know, the Metropolitan is tough, and we're going to get to see it return this year, which I'm pretty excited about, to see, the NHL go back to their regular 56-game season and regular divisions, obviously with the addition of the Seattle Kraken as well. But I think that the Devils really, from a national perspective, really did do a good job in this offseason, starting with, you mentioned Dougie Hamilton, but also on that defensive end, I feel like they've really juggled around a lot of pieces and added a handful of guys in addition to Dougie Hamilton. And I think that's where I'm curious to watch the team grow a lot this year and kind of rally around that group, because, I like to say this, it's kind of an all sports talk thing, but defense wins championships. So you got to have a good defensive core. And I think that the Devils putting an effort on that in the offseason is definitely helpful, in addition to acquiring Jonathan Bernier in the net too. I think that having, a guy that has a little bit more experience with Mackenzie Blackwood, is a good thing as well. So I think that they will definitely be able to compete in the Metro this year. It's hard to say how things will all shake out. I'm not one that's very good with predictions, but I think that they definitely are going on the upside this year.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Obviously, I think that they made a lot of. I just wanted for the longest time, I just wanted it to be exciting to watch the games. There were some games last year where it was just terrible to watch. So I'm excited that there's something. The one thing from last year, though, that wasn't terrible to watch was Jack Hughes. He clearly was the best player on the team. He clearly took a step forward from his dreadful rookie season. And he had the makings of a superstar at the beginning of the year. Then obviously he got sick, yada, yada, yada. But I kind of want you to project, like, do you see a superstar in Jack Hughes? Do you think that he's going to be somebody who can carry a team? And do you think he can do that as soon as next year?
That's a great question. I think that everyone develops at different rates, and to see his production from year one to year two is very positive for sure. He's bigger, he's older now. I mean, he's not 18 anymore, and he's got the 2 seasons under his belt. He's added some more size, and I think that one of the things that's really been noticeable was his confidence level. I mean, he's really seems to be more comfortable with the puck and, creating more chances and everything like that. I think that he is on his way to being a superstar. Will that happen this season? I don't necessarily think so. But I think that it does take time. And I really think it's pretty cool that, the Devils drafted his brother also in the draft this year. That was really awesome. So just knowing that maybe his brother's coming in the near future might also give him a little kick in the butt. Like, okay, I gotta be that superstar by the time, Luke gets here. So.
Yeah. So let me ask you about that, just because you brought it up. From a marketing standpoint, what are your thoughts on that? Because, like, the Sedin twins were an interesting, thing for the Canucks for so long, but they were from overseas, so they weren't as media friendly as I'm not in Canada, so I don't know how much like they were in commercials or how much they appeared on other aspects, but I know that Jack Hughes already had that I believe it's a Gatorade sponsorship, so he's already kind of getting his hands into things. What do you think that having 2 brothers play together in the biggest metro area in the country is going to impact the Devils as a whole?
I think it's only going to be a positive impact. I mean, especially for what we saw during the draft with the Hughes family as a whole. They were so excited when Luke got drafted that I think that they're just going to kind of become like a face of the Devils. And every time that there's brothers on the team, you always get good stories. Usually you get good stories from it. And I would assume that would be the case for the Hughes family. I actually used to work with USA Hockey when Quinn was on the team back in the day, right before he was drafted. And I just know that the Hughes family is so supportive. And I think that both Jack and Luke will be great representatives in the community and everything like that, and for the team. I think it'll be a good thing for the franchise because it will put, that the faces to the name of it as well.
So what you're saying is you could put in a good word to Quinn to kind of force that trade to the Devils so we could get the 3, right?
I'm not making any promises, but I can see what I could do.
Yeah, just make the call. Just ask. It would be a personal favor to me.
Become an agent in the off season. That sounds like a good idea.
It's not bad, right? Just moving on a little bit. I do want to move on to the hockey that's happening right now, but I do want to just one more Devils thing. Do you think that they need to make another move? Do you think that because I actually wrote about it. It's going up tomorrow about Vladimir Tarasenko and kind of what's going on with that. But it sounds like that's on the back burner because of the injury that he has. And obviously most GMs don't make a lot of moves now anyway. But do you think the Devils need to make another move? They have $12 million in cap space, so they can. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they should. So what are your thoughts? Do you think they need to make another move?
I think that they can probably sit tight for now. I think that they've done a good job in this off season. And the season, camps are pretty close and the preseason is starting this weekend. So I think that as a GM, you kind of want to see what you have that you've acquired and everything. And then kind of go from there. But I think that they're going to be all right.
I'm on the fence. I'm not 100% sure because I kind of maybe I want it for the content because I see how great the content is when we sign or trade for somebody. But at the same time, I'm like, I remember a couple of years ago when they were like, you got this big hole in left defense, but we made all these moves, so it's going to be great, and then it wasn't great. I'm scarred, Alexis, from 2 years ago. If you couldn't tell.
I could definitely tell.
It hurt me. PK Subban. I still got the jersey. I'm still rooting for him, but it's maybe he's just our TikTok star. So I do want to talk. Speaking of social media, you've been tweeting about the women's worlds and everything that's happening over there. And I love worlds. I love worlds of all kinds. I love rooting for the USA, and I don't watch soccer, but I'll watch the World Cup. I definitely don't watch curling, but when USA curling's on, I'm like, let's go USA. Same thing is happening with women's worlds. I do watch a little NWHL, so I have more of a feel for that, but some people don't. Some people don't have any feel for women's hockey, and they kind of need a reason to watch. Besides it just being hockey in August, which is enough for me to watch. So what's going on in this tournament? What should hockey fans look out for this Women's Worlds tournament?
Well, this is a really big deal for women's hockey because they haven't had an international event in the past 2 years. So to finally have one is really exciting. And Team USA going into this is the favorite for they're in Group A, and they have won the tournament 8 of the last 9 that they've played in, which is insane. So they're looking for their 6th straight gold, and right now they have not lost a game in the tournament. They've won all their preliminary games. They will play actually Team Canada tomorrow night, which is going to be a really great matchup. Because Canada is also currently sitting at 3-0. So one of these teams is going to add a loss to their record. Hopefully not USA because I am American. But yeah, Team Canada has some great offensive weapons that you can look out for. Natalie Spooner, she's doing really well in this tournament. But then on the U.S. side, Hillary Knight, I'm sure you've seen her name on social media. She just notched a record for herself, passing Cami Granato for the most goals scored in women's worlds. She actually got that record yesterday with 45 goals. And she's just a phenomenal player to watch and someone that will likely be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. So it's been really exciting just to see, women's hockey back on TV. All the games have been on NHL Network. And there's also Group B, which has some of the other teams, and I haven't been watching those games quite as much, just mostly because I've been focusing on Team USA and their group. But I think tomorrow night's game against Canada is going to be very exciting to watch.
So I am personally surprised to know that USA hockey is done. I knew that USA and Canada are 1-2 in women's, and they always have been, and that Olympic matchup from a couple of years ago was probably one of the best hockey games I've watched in my life, men or women. But so why is USA just dominating this tournament all the time? Is it just do they just have the best talent, or is there a coaching thing? I'm trying to wrap my head around that kind of dominance. That's like women's basketball type dominance.
It really is. I think that a lot of it probably does go into the coaching, but in the last time that they played in Worlds, they actually have since then added a lot of younger names. And so a lot of the women on the team, this is their first Worlds, or, they haven't been on this stage yet, but they have people like Kendall Coyne-Schofield and, like I mentioned, Hillary Knight and Brianna Decker, who have been in these tournaments and at this stage and at the Olympic level. And I think it's just really been a cycle of producing incredible talent across the board.
Alex, before I go, I know I mentioned this, so if you don't have much on it, obviously the hockey world is mourning this week with the Jimmy Hayes passing. Did you have any stories with Jimmy Hayes? Like, was he ever a part of any teams you rooted for? Or because I know he had such a hold on the Devils in the short time that he was here. People just love to hear as much about him as possible.
Yeah, it's certainly taken the whole entire hockey world. It's really been so sad to see that, and my prayers and my heart goes out to Kevin and the rest of the family and friends and everyone. But I personally can't say that I have a story, but I've seen on social media how many lives that he impacted, and it's really incredible to hear all the amazing things that people have to say about him and just what a great person he was and the legacy that he's leaving behind.
Yeah, it was a sad week. It's hard to kind of talk anything hockey without at least mentioning it. So I did want to kind of give you that floor, but I do want to kind of give you just an open forum to tell the viewers, tell all of our listeners, however they're consuming this content, where can they find you? What do you have coming up next? What's your video on this week? Just let everybody know exactly what you got going on so they can check you out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm working on an interview this week that's actually going to be about the Rangers and Islanders. So keeping with that Metropolitan Division, maybe not the teams that you want to hear, but Rangers have had some pretty big pieces of news coming out recently. So I felt that was appropriate to talk about. But yeah, you can find Icebreakers on Stadium. It usually comes out on Monday afternoons. So that'll come out on Monday afternoon. It's also on Stadium's website, which is watchstadium.com. And then, of course, I post all of the content as well on my social channels, which is Alexis Downie _ on Twitter and Instagram.
Alexis Downie, I'm excited to see what you do. How big you get. Always really impressed by. So I'm excited to see where you go next. But thanks so much. We'll have you again when the Devils do something else crazy and we need a national perspective.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Alexis Downie, host of Icebreakers, breaking the ice on this podcast. Great interview, Nick. You did well. I learned a lot. And then I got excited about the tournament, women's hockey. I forgot about that, and I gotta catch up. I'm a big fan of the NWHL.
Yeah, I've been just watching the highlights. You get the highlights, you get a little bit. It feels like hockey's here, and I get like a little excitement brewing. The Jimmy Hayes thing has really just I'm going to be honest, it took the air out of me a little bit because it's just been such a weird week just around, like, Twitter's been a little down and hockey, just thinking about hockey is a little down. So I just catch the highlights. I haven't watched the games live, but hopefully, that Canada-USA matchup, I don't think, Sam, I can resist that one. So it's going to be something that's I need to view. Good. Yeah,
whether it's soccer, soccer, hockey, it doesn't matter. It's It's Canada versus USA. I mean, I'm still not over 2010. Totally not over 2010.
Yeah. So we need to recoup our losses, and apparently we're doing it at Worlds. I didn't know it was. What did she say? It was 9 of 10 or 8 of 9, or I know she's in they're going for 6 in a row, and that's wild. I love America winning. So we just got to keep putting that good old red, white, and blue on them medals.
Yeah,
gold, silver, and bronze, red, white, and blue. Just recolor the medals.
You know what they say? Second place is the first place loser.
Yeah,
that's my mindset. Like my mindset is, I'm sure if you ever medal at Olympics, it's whether it's bronze or silver, gold, copper. I don't know if copper's even a medal.
It's not a medal.
I know, but I don't know where that came from. I think it was one Nintendo game back in the 80s, and I think you could get fourth place, a copper. It's like, what's that? I don't see it on TV. Copper? But it's
Sam. If you ain't first, you're last.
Yeah, you gotta be in first place. Same with the New Jersey Devils. Sometimes they would place 6 overall in the conference, in the Eastern Conference. They make the playoffs. I mean, it is true. You got to make the playoffs to go to the big dance. So, remember those years when the Devils were in first place of the Atlantic Division, but just flop in the first round?
See, that's where I think about that all the time. Because it was different because I was younger. So, you take sports differently when you're younger than when you're older. You have so much else going on. And, when you're younger and, you're as into sports as we were, I feel like a lot of your life revolves around it. You know what I mean? So, I feel like I took it harder then. But I wonder, is the heartbreak of that loss and losing in that aspect when you have such high expectations for your team, is that better than just sucking and having no expectations at all? And I really don't think it is. I remember that year that we went, my favorite year is 2012, where we didn't have a lot of, we had a little bit of expectations, but we just killed the Rangers. We killed the Flyers. We had that great series with the Panthers, and we came back in the Stanley Cup play. That's something that people kind of forget, is we went down 3-0 to the Kings. We beat them 2 games in a row. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, Sam, but sphincters got tight up in Los Angeles. There was talk if there was, I forget, oh man, who was it? Was it Ray Ferraro? Somebody went on TV and said, if any team could come back from a 3-0 deficit, it's this Devils team. I was like, oh, wow.
Let me tell you.
Maybe we can.
Let me tell you a little story. A little story of the 2012 Stanley Cup Finals. I could tell the story now because it's 9 years later. I remember because I was part of the media, the press, and I was able to go to all the Stanley Cup Finals games with a press credential versus my season ticket. So, but I had to work. Yeah. And I remember this, and I don't know if you remember this, but I wasn't sure if I should have reported it or whatever. That series was so intense that I remember that the LA Kings PR person at the time sent out a mass email. It was supposed to be internal, but instead it went to members of the press. And I happened to be on that email list. Ooh. I don't know if you remember this. And it was a play-by-play, and I probably still have this email, maybe on the 10th anniversary, maybe I'll read that email, of what to do during intermission when it's the responsibility of the home team to give the opposing team Xerox copies of the stats of the game. But they had this DeVoltz's plan of making the excuse, oh, sorry, the copier didn't work. You don't get those stats, to Larry Robinson, all the assistant coaches. And that email actually got to the press. And I was just waiting. Who's going to make the first move? And he's no longer with the Devils. I actually forwarded to the Devils, heads up, this is an emergency. He was on a business trip, probably out in LA somewhere, and I got a hold of him, and I said, I'm going to send something to you from a different email address. It's real, authentic, but you didn't get it from me. And that was that email. And I think eventually, somebody from the LA Times posted it. I was like, oh, good, now the story's out. But yeah, I remember that time. That series was so intense that I was like, they're doing that. I'm like, do they normally do this kind of stuff? But just to see it actually in an email, play by play, step by step, how it was supposed to be executed, and what the excuse is, why those stats didn't go to those assistant coaches and the coaching staff was it was something of I'm trying to think of another cheating incident. It's kind of like the Astros, like how complex their cheating was behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. But maybe on the 10th anniversary, I'll read that email. It was a funny email. Not funny at the time, but, sorry, I just remember that.
No, I mean, when you look back at things like that, like how I always think about that, like how seriously people take sports. They treat it like war. Like the strategies and the advantages and trying to get the upper hand and it's very warlike, like with generals and stuff like that. Obviously it's not a life and death situation; it's a game. So I don't want it to like get taken out of context like that. It's just the way the strategy is developed and the things that and the intensity in which the strategy is developed. Like think about like Lou Lamoriello hasn't announced who he signed yet. But yeah, because Kyle Palmieri and Zach Parise and Casey Cizikas just haven't signed their deals yet. They're just chilling on the waiver on the whatever. Even Travis Zajac just hanging out, just waiting. I still don't know how he's going to sign all these guys, Sam, because they have $11 million in cap space. I would think that Palmieri himself would want like $5 million, right? Is he going to take a $1 million deal? Like and they have to sign Ilya Sorokin and Anthony Bellevue. So they have quite a lot of money that they need to spend, and they signed all these free agents. So I would put my hands up. I don't know, Sam. It's crazy, but it's been a wild couple of days. Next
Who
week
knows?
will be a bit.
Who knows with Palmieri? What happens if he gets a little impatient? How about if he gets a little impatient? Anybody nearby that has cap space?
I think there is. I think there's a team right there, and he's pretty fond of that team, as from what I heard. But I think that I mean they're pretty much definitely signed there. I don't understand like how it's been this long where like you don't even have any numbers, anything at all. So I understand that he's trying to get another player. How do you like even if the like because they're the people that people bring up as a competition for the Devils get Tarasenko, how would that even work? Even if St. Louis takes half of the contract, that's still $3.75 million that they have to find room for. And you're saying you're going to sign Cizikas, Parise, Palmieri, Beauvillier, Sorokin, and Zajac for $8 million? People were saying that Sorokin was going to get a similar deal to Shesterkin. Shesterkin, didn't he just get like $5 million?
Yeah.
None of this makes sense, but I don't know. We saw with the Lightning. You could kind of finagle the salary cap as much as you'd like. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing somebody. I didn't take a deep look at it. Maybe like there's somebody who's bound to go on LTIR. That's always a possibility. But either way, that's what I got.
Wow. I'm still mad about 2012. I didn't even finish my
we're
thought
still
on
there.
that.
Sorry.
It had the Devils, had that ref put up his hand, I keep on saying it, and Bernier didn't have to hit Scuderi, behind the net, because it really should have been called icing. That if the Devils had come back down 3-0, made it 3-3, coming back to the Rock Prudential Center for a ruckus, put everything on the line, Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals, after surpassing the Rangers in that fashion.
And the Rock was on fire that postseason.
Yeah. All the media hype. There was no way the Kings could have won that game. No way. And I just feel that one play, and I'm not even faulting Bernier, was taken away from us.
On top of that, they should have called boarding on I forgot who did the hit, but on the Steven Giunta hit, which what Bernier was responding to.
Yeah.
They basically pulled a WWE move and pushed his face into the sideboards and didn't call anything on it.
Yeah.
So it'll be weird.
And that's where all the NHL conspiracy theories come about against Gary Bettman.
Yeah,
I love having fun with it, but I don't know. I'm still mad about the whole Ray Bourque saga in 2001. Do you remember that? Do you remember that whole 16W? And we're like, Devils fans were like, well, what about us? Our exit 16W. And then you look at what ESPN or ABC at the time, they would show, this is the opening montage of the Stanley Cup Finals. They show like this beautiful pasture in Colorado, the Rocky Mountains, the beautiful flowers, the fields, the cows chewing on the grass, grazing freely. And then they point to Jersey, and it's the freaking turnpike. It's like the turnpike and like a ditch.
It's like, have you ever been inside Denver? Like in Denver?
I've only been to the airport. Tell me what's it like inside Denver.
I mean, it's a city. It's just a city. It's not, it's not New York. It's not, Toronto or anything like that. But it's a city. It's,
One of these days, I would love to have Ryan Graves on and give us the dirt. What's it like in Denver, in Colorado, compared to New Jersey?
Well, we'll work on it, Sam. We'll work on some player guests.
Work it. Can I plug something real quick?
Yeah.
We're
about wrapping up, so you do your plugs.
Yeah. All right. In all seriousness, Arlette is turning 50 next month.
Woo!
And on Friday, September 24th, from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m., Arlette's 50th birthday bash, the Stage House Tavern in Mountainside, New Jersey. There's going to be a DJ, prizes, giveaways, special performance by Arlette and her band, The Girls. NJ Devil, the mascot, will be there. The Woo Crew, no relation to me, will be there. So wear your New Jersey Devils attire. I also talked to organist Pete. He'll be there. And also, I'll be there because we're going to do a special birthday podcast for the birthday girl, the beloved Arlette. She will be on the podcast for a special live on location podcast as we're tuning up for the regular season. So, I should put our podcast tour dates out at some point where we're going to be. But yeah, just a reminder, it's going to be at the Stagehouse Tavern, Mountainside, New Jersey. But we'll be plugging it often. The Let's Go Devils podcast will be there, and we're going to have a lot of fun. I want to check out this Woo Crew. And also, Nick, I almost forgot, but somebody reminded me. I got to submit my audition video, 90 seconds, to the New Jersey Devils to be the next Devils PA announcer. I got to get it done.
You do. You gotta work on that.
Yeah, I got to do that. I'm Mr. Procrastinator, but I really should get this thing done because knowing my luck, I submit it like August 31st, and that's when the website goes down. You know, all hell breaks loose, and I have to literally drive there and give them a jump drive. Here is my submission.
Please take it.
This is the PSCNG Power Play. I'm still practicing, and also I got my bullhorn somewhere.
Ooh,
yeah.
I think you gotta do something a little different. Maybe like a mix of Michael Buffer and The Rock. Can you try to work on that?
Well,
it doesn't matter who scored the goal. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, give me something along there.
I have to be creative. See, they want creativity. That's one of the prerequisites of being a Devils PA announcer. They want a little creativity. But I'll tell you what, if I don't make the top 10, I'm going to be the biggest sore loser on the internet the entire time. But I will never trash another Devils fan. Now, if a Ranger fan makes it the top 10, then I'll be a little pissed. But it better not.
I think we learned our lessons from last year of sharing Rangers content at the wrong time. And I think making a Rangers fan the announcer would be a bottom 5 move. I think they learned their lesson. Oh, by the way,
sorry.
Did you say? I mean, now I kind of feel bad bringing it up because I forgot why it kind of went by the wayside. Never mind. Just move on.
I was about to say, should I say in my resume to the Devils, excellent speller, no need for spell check? Michael McLean.
I definitely should not apply for that job if they've ever heard that podcast and ever heard how I say the names that are on the Devils and how I've literally said them wrong. I've been saying Vukašević because it sounds fancy, apparently. I don't know why I've been saying it, but we had Ben on last week, and he just very nonchalant was like, Vukovic. I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to move past that. And I was like, all right, well.
Vukovic.
I know Heischer. I know Bratt, Subban. Got those down. I got the NHL guys. But when they call up Studenic or people like that, I'm not your guy, Sam. I am not your guy to pronounce Jersey Devils
I'll
names.
Mutilate it. I'll mutilate it. But you know what? If I had the privilege of being the New Jersey Devils PA announcer, I'll just muffle the mic so nobody really knows. Goal scorer.
You know what you should do?
What's that?
You should do we didn't start the fire. Do Nico Heischer, Jesper Bratt, and Mackenzie Blackwood. These are your Devil starters. Da 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 da. See, something like that. You got to get creative.
Oh, okay.
This is free content for them too. They can just take this. This is for free.
Well, that's the other thing. I hope this contest
Give me Ryan
legit.
Graves. Give me the Ryan Graves interview, and we'll call it even.
Yeah, it's I hope this contest is legitimate. The fix isn't already in. That would stink.
The fix isn't.
I know it is. I know deep down it is. But can a guy dream? It's kind of like a David Ayres scenario. It's like a David Ayres scenario for me. David Ayres, the e-bug that actually pulled
I know about
off.
David Ayres.
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of other e-bugs. I think Scott Foster. There's a guy in Philly. I think he did it twice. I forgot his name. I actually have him. I actually have his number in my phone book. So, I just hope that I at least make the top 10. and I will literally congratulate the other Devils fans if it's a legit thing. But if they already have somebody picked out, that would
It's going to
really
be like
stink.
the Nashville Predators play-by-play guy or announcer. But even if they pick a fan to do it for a couple nights, like just pull a Jeopardy. If you're gonna announce that the executive producer is getting the job, at least let a bunch of guest hosts come in first.
Yeah, I don't know, because that's like my dream job. I mean, think about it. You get paid to watch the Devils, and you get paid to get excited.
But then you're gonna have to leave us.
Oh, well, we're going to have to. I mean, contract negotiations will be very, very, very tough. I'm sure my agent can figure it out. Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine State of the Fan address without me? It'd be like you and Vinny. I'd be at the game, Sure.
Actually, that wouldn't be so bad. Me and Vinny have done podcasts by ourselves for his Bar Down network, so...
Yeah, hopefully there's no non-compete clause. I'd be troubled. I would have to have a podcast on the Woo Report. Should I sign this non-compete clause?
Should I stay or should I go now?
Yeah.
Well,
I just want a free hot dog
when we get there, Sam. First of all, you have to send it in first.
Yeah, that's the first step. I got to create it, send it in. And then after September 1st, I mean, can I play it on this podcast? I don't know.
Sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, but maybe they'll alter the voting. Maybe they'll alter the voting if I get in the top 10 by doing something like that. I don't know. I don't know how the Devils work. I don't understand them sometimes. But they're my favorite team, and that's all that matters. What is everybody else saying on social media? YouTube Live, you've been so quiet all night. I'm disappointed in you two. Live.
I think we need to put them to bed. I think it's time to put them to bed. It's 9:30. Yep. It was a slow week, admittedly, but...
Oh, I should probably turn on the music, shouldn't I? Well, Nick... Any last thing to plug?
Just that Tarasenko piece that's coming out tomorrow morning, and we got a lot of honestly, we are required to write at least 14 articles by the end of the month, so that's happening. Don't know what they're about yet, but they're gonna be fun. So awesome. This weekend is going to be chock full of content. I'm gonna just get creative with some things. Maybe some history pieces. Definitely gonna write about Ryan Graves, just because, I haven't wrote a ton about him because of Hamilton and Tatar and Luke Hughes, and so that's going to be interesting. You know what I'm also going to write about? I'll give you a Christian Jaros take. I don't know what yet, but let me do something on Christian Jaros, another new guy on the list. You're going to get a lot of content from me this weekend. Oh, and somebody brought up Chase De Leon. One of the other new Devils fans that kind of fell under the radar, and said, "Watch out for him for making the team." So that's somebody I'm gonna look into.
Thank you, and thank you for watching. Let's go Devils.